Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Meepolis and this is Literally Graphic. And today we are looking at a long time to read, for me, Nylon Road, a memoir comic written and illustrated by Persian. Originally published in German in her country of residence, Switzerland, the edition I read was published on November 10th, 2009 by St. Martin's Griffin in English. As far as warnings go, there's definitely some non-sexual nips action going on, mostly to contrast Western cliches against Iranian modesty standards. And there is some cartoon Barbie doll detail level nudity to represent the level of vulnerability and fragility our main protagonist is feeling. As a work of personal memoir, the line between plot and creator bio is rather blurry. So here goes. Flipping over to the back of the book, we get the following description. In the tradition of graphic memoirs such as Marjane Satrapi's Persepolis comes the story of a young Iranian woman's struggles with growing up under Shiite law. Her journey into adulthood and the daughter whom she had to leave behind when she left Iran. Beautifully told and poignant, Nylon Road is a powerful work about the necessity of freedom. As we already see, there's a lot of comparison between Satrapi and Bashi because people don't read enough comics. In my humble opinion, the comparison is rather shallow, but such is life. For starters, the person we meet at the start of the story is a grown woman with more life behind her than I, at least, initially realized, living in Sweden. As the storyline progresses, Bashi keeps running into premonitions of herself from various points of her life, triggered by various things that are going on in her present life. Sometimes the premonitions are more curious and sometimes they are more accusing, but with each experience we learn a bit more about who Bashi is and who she has been. Both a source of strength and weakness, the way that the story jumps around can be a bit more confusing than necessary. It also felt like maybe some of the speech bubbles were laid out backwards, maybe. But I could honestly also relate to it pretty hard in that I'll be going around my daily life and then feel myself suddenly pulled back through time by a feeling or memory from my past that has been triggered by something in the present. But circling back to the comic at hand, this jumping around in time does allow effortlessly focus on only the things that are important, and maybe condense feelings and ideas that actually happen little by little over a long period of time. Linearly or not, it was very interesting to watch how Bashi's thoughts and ideas shifted and changed over time. It also felt like there was a limited amount of, oh, my old ideas were so bad, and now I'm perfect, in that Bashi is able to express understanding for herself at each point and keeps judgment to a minimum. My only complaint was, early on, it felt like the word freedom was going to be bandied around too much in the sense that freedom equals capitalist choices, but I felt like ultimately it wasn't necessarily that bad. How is gender and sexuality presented? Pretty well, I think. Obviously, there's the veil, but Bashi doesn't spend a lot of time obsessing about the obvious cliches and does offer some nuance to the situation. For better or for worse, sexuality, straight or otherwise, is not really touched upon that much besides talking about the outline of Bashi's straight marriage, which is something but really not at the same time. Class wasn't really touched on in any overt way, although I guess some subliminal messages could perhaps be drawn out of how well off Bashi's family seems. Ultimately, she and her brothers have a lot of choice, and while this does not solve all of her problems by any means, I can only imagine how much more difficult getting out of the country would have been without it. Ability versus disability is not touched on at all. Otherwise, to compare Nylon Road to something not Persepolis, can I direct any of you to read A Game for Swallows, To Die, To Leave, To Return by Zina Aberashad. This other book that inevitably also got compared to Persepolis is about the civil war in Lebanon. Bye y'all, keep reading and resist white supremacy. And as always, Literally Graphic is recorded on the traditional territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and Anishinaabe people, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Huron-Wendat Nation. I live here because of British colonization, indigenous genocide, and more geographically specific, Treaty 13. Also known as the Toronto Purchase, which was finalized in 1805 between representatives of the Crown and certain Mississauga peoples. This treaty was a lie and has since been broken many times over. Saying so reflects only my own small steps towards knowing the truth and does nothing for reconciliation.